Check all the check marks. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, our topic of today's show, we are going to talk about our head coach, Sean Payton. Ladies and gentlemen, we have talked a lot these last couple of weeks. We've talked players, we've talked bosses, owners, we've talked general managers, and we still have a lot to go during the momentum of this 2025 year. And the season hasn't even started yet, but we are so close. But I feel like today we have to talk about the head coach, because ever since our head coach came in and changed things around here in Broncos Country, it seems like there's a different feeling, and the direction where the Broncos are going is definitely great. Libre and I can't wait to get into with you guys. Plus, we have so much more to talk about at the overtime part of today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you are strapped in, get your drinks and food ready, because here we go.
Broncos talk, let's rock, feel the energy rise. From the microphone to the fans reaching the skies. Every episode a thrill, a surprise. For the love of the game, we harmonize.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adan Diaz, and joining me to my left or right, depending on where you're watching me, is my co-host at Bronco Libre. Bronco Libre, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. I'm so sorry I forgot to log on to TikTok before we
It's all
started.
good.
So I'm logging in now. So you can just send me the
All right.
is like an invite, right?
Yeah.
Ladies
Once you're
and
there.
gentlemen, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in. This is Broncos Talk. Again, I'm your host, Alan Diaz, and joining me as always is Bronco Libre. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an action-packed show for you guys here today. But as you guys know, before we do any and all things, first, we have to get through our couple of announcements if this is your first time watching us here on Broncos Talk. First of all, we would like to tell you that we are broadcasting live on the Orange and Blue Network. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all the shows you guys see here. In case Broncos Talk is not your cup of tea, that's totally fine. Thankfully, the Orange and Blue Network has got you guys covered with everything and anything you guys need to make sure that you are up to date with all of your Broncos news and activities. Also, we are also streaming on the MHRT networks. It's a simulcast, so we're streaming on both networks live at the very same time. It's a very great time to be alive, honestly. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all their shows. And also make sure to tell them that your boy 610 and Bronco Libre sent you. They will definitely be grateful for it. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, they're right there at the bottom. At the 6'10" Mexican is mine. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280. We're always down and happy to talk about any and all things football with you guys over there as well. And comments about the show, suggestions, questions, anything that we may have missed here during the show, we are always happy to catch up with you guys and talk about it. Also, for those of you listening to us on the audio version, if you're not able to watch us live, totally fine. We appreciate your support. Please make sure you give a 5-star rating. If you can screenshot and send it to either Libre and I on our social, just so we can give you guys a personal shout out and a really good things for listening to us after the fact, especially over on what is Spotify or Audacity or whatever it's calling itself now. Shout out to all you guys for listening to us over there. Also, please make sure for our Spanish speaking listeners, we do have Viva los Broncos, which airs every single Friday normally, but this weekend we have a special day. We will not be going this Friday. We will be going live this Saturday for Viva los Broncos. So please make sure you write that down March 1st at 5 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Mountain, 3 West Pacific time, and then Eastern is like 6. So please make sure you are subscribed to all of our socials so you get live to the up-to-date networks and the live notification from when we go live. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what Dubby is a very, very special formula that is created to help you guys. Basically, it's your favorite. It'll be your favorite energy drink once you try it because it gives you all the good without all of the bad. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me tell you. First of all, W was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented Neurofactor formula. It contains no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. Again, it's all the good without all the bad. And as you guys can see on the screen, if you're watching us live, they come in so many delicious flavors. And just to show you guys how nice Johnny and the guys over at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast show are, which airs every single Tuesday here on the networks, they would like to give you 10% off at checkout. So make sure you use the code NRWOB10 to get your 10% off at checkout once you pick out all your favorite flavors. Again, that code is NRWOB10 for your 10% off at checkout. Shout out to Debbie for being a sponsor for all the shows here on the Orange and Blue Network. And also shout out to our friends over at the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue for the 10% off discount. Make sure you go and give them your thanks because they definitely deserve it. Did I miss anything, Libre?
I don't think so. I think you got it all.
Yeah, and before we start, also shout out to our viewers on TikTok. We are doing this duo live stream on TikTok again. So shout out to everybody in the chat. If you guys are watching, we are trying to look at 2 cameras at once. So if we're not looking at you, please don't take it as we're not paying attention to you. We're trying to do 2 things at once. So Libre and I will be taking turns while the other one's talking to kind of check in with each chat. If there's any questions you guys have on TikTok or anything you guys want to say, please feel free to ask us while we are here live. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, again, the topic of today's show is Sean Payton. And Libre and I were talking a little bit before backstage. And basically, I was kind of telling him the reason why I wanted to talk about Sean Payton tonight. And, you know, aside from what I said in the intro, where we already talked about the general manager, we talked about the owner, we talked about Von Miller, and we talked about a lot of things about the Broncos. And we're definitely going to keep talking about a lot of things about these said Broncos. But I feel like when we get to the topic about head coach, this is a topic that ever since Super Bowl 50, it's been kind of a carousel with Denver. Okay. First, we knew Gary Kubiak wasn't going to be around forever after winning that championship. 2016 could have really been a fantastic season, but unfortunately, the Broncos, the magic just kind of fell short. But it left a lot of promise open, Libre, on what could have been, you know. And then after that, I know a lot of people are still not happy with the Vance Joseph hiring. Libre, you've heard Libre complain about it so many times, and there's a lot of people in Broncos country that will complain about it too. Me personally, at that time, I wasn't familiar with either one of those guys as candidates. I didn't know who Vance Joseph was. I know who Kyle Shanahan was because of his father, obviously, but I didn't know what the potential was that he could bring to a team. All I knew is that he was coming off of, I think he was coming off of the Washington coaching staff at that time. And, you know, he was turning some heads and he was looking to be a very big figure in football. And just like the free agency that's coming up, guys, finding a head coach is literally like finding a needle in a haystack. Okay. Because you literally have to take a gamble and hope that if you get whoever you get, whether they come with some experience or they've never had any experience before, like in Vic Fangio's case, following Vance Joseph, that you hope that they can bring that mentality and turn the team around for the better. Because if you're looking for a head coach, most of the time it's not because you know the former is decided to retire, which could be the case, but most of the time it's because your team is not doing very good. The person running it before was not doing very good, so you had to get rid of them to bring in somebody else. Libre, your thoughts?
No, I agree with that 100% as well. But you also have to think about it as well as it's like trying to find your quarterback. You have to make sure that it's the proper fit for the team as well. And not being able to find a great quarter or head coach is uh, detrimental. Like we had back in the day with McDummy, we did have Vance Joseph, we had, uh, you know, just these guys, Nathaniel Hackett, where you think that they're going to come in and do good jobs because what they have been doing is excelling at their current positions of where they were at, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, wherever it's at. You always have to give that chance because, again, like we talked about, it's a gamble when you do this. You hope that they have the skills and the mindset to become where they're going to be taking care of everything in the whole team and the mindset. And if they don't have that mindset quite yet, then it's going to be detrimental to the team. And we saw that within Nathaniel Hackett. We saw that with McDummy back in the day. We have seen that, come through. And it's something that with the team, if it's a good fit, it's going to be that type of guy. It's going to be, is he him type of deal scenario. And right now, what the Broncos did a couple years ago, they went after Sean Payton. And they actually had a trade for him because he was still under contract with the Saints. So by that, with the ownership group and with the GM, with George Payton here, like they took that gamble and said, you know what? We know he's going to be a good fit here for us in Denver. And look what they did. They go, since we know that he's going to be that good fit, we're going to give up trade picks for him. And so far, look at what has happened. It has panned out for us. And I believe that he just wanted to step away from the Saints because he was there for several years already. Like he was there for a long time. I think he just needed a change. He just needed a break from football, and that's okay. And look what happened. Like he was out for 1 year, and now we ended up getting him in a trade. Because he wanted to come back to play, or not to play, but to coach in the league again. But he just didn't want to do it with the Saints. So I'm excited that that we have him now, and look where we're at. Look what he was able to do with our team and what the resources that we had this last year, and excel and exceed all these expectations. Now we're just going forward here, and especially what I love about what he had at this interview today there in Indianapolis is that talking about wide receivers and so forth. And he said that basically Cortland Sutton's going to be part of this team this upcoming year. Even though he's coming into his last year of his contract, he's like, come in and prove it to us that you're going to be here. You're going to be the guy. And, hopefully you get rewarded because we're going to end up having a lot more money for the following year for hopefully if he does have a good year on his contract year, it's going to be good. And guess who's going to do it? Sean Payton. Sean is the one that's going to get there to get him to that level. And I feel like he can coach him and get him to that level of being that. Hopefully it is wide receiver one that if that's what we're thinking about right now.
You know what? We have to keep in mind about how Sean Payton got here to Denver. For those that don't know, as Libre mentioned, Sean Payton's contract was traded to the Broncos. So basically, the Broncos took the pick that they got from the Dolphins when they traded Bradley Chubb. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of people that were pretty upset about that trade because they felt that Bradley Chubb still had value to the team. And I don't know. It's just really hard when we have to decide to trade players because we feel that everybody that's made it to the team is detrimental to its success. Yeah. Plus, it gave a lot of people shades of what happened with Von Miller. Obviously, Von Miller and Bradley Chubb are two very different players, two different calibers, of course. But at the same time, it just kind of it like opened up old wounds, if I'm being honest. So I know I was kind of skeptical about it because I was like, I thought the Broncos were going to go out and, give somebody else a chance, just like they gave Vic Fangio a chance, just like they gave Nathaniel Hackett's crazy behind a chance. But I also forgot that we weren't dealing with the Bolins anymore. This was like one of the very first major moves that the new owners made after they took control of the team. So basically, they just kind of pulled the reins because they did not like anything that they saw from the 2022 season. Nobody did. Okay, that was just a train going off the rails and just like it was nuts. Okay, so Sean Payton coming in, and a lot of people the same way people criticize Sean Payton is the same way people criticize Bo Nix. Before Sean Payton picked up a clipboard and before Bo Nix threw a football, they were both heavily criticized in Denver. Everybody that wasn't Colin Cowherd. Okay.
Right.
He was the only person that was on Sean Payton's side. So with him coming in, and a lot of people, most of the haters were already talking about Bountygate. They were talking about that, Sean Payton hasn't won anything since 2010 and that he wouldn't win anything again. He wouldn't be anywhere near detrimental to the success of Denver because he wasn't going to be able to find a Drew Brees or that he wasn't going to be able to fix Russell Wilson. Basically that the new owners were not just wasting money, but they were spinning their wheels. All right. And dealing with everything that was going on with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and whatever the hell the Raiders were doing, because even they didn't know what the hell they were doing in terms of coaching. They were just trying to get over the whole Gruden scandal and then them trying to deal with their things. But we were still losing to them, which made it worse. They didn't really have a franchise quarterback because Carr had already left. And, Aiden O'Connell, I give him the benefit of the doubt. At least he's trying, but we can't root for anybody wearing the black and white, So Sean Payton coming into Denver, he had his hands full. All right. And he definitely needed to make a statement. And it seems like the owners at first wanted him to fix Russell Wilson and fix the offense. But after a year of seeing what Russell can do, and he actually did his job because the Broncos improved from 5 wins to 8 wins. And that was just in the first season. It was kind of almost like a kind of a Cinderella season. And it made it look like maybe there was something there. But then when the whole thing happened where they benched Russell Wilson towards the end of the year because they didn't want to pay the injury contract, and the writing was on the wall that more than likely Russell was not going to come back, that to me painted a gigantic picture of a mural. It was like the size of a mural on the side of the biggest building you can think of, where it was just like, Sean Payton doesn't want Russell Wilson here. Nothing against him, but at the end of the day, it's just business. If Sean Payton's going to coach this team, if he's going to run it the way he's going to run it, then it's got to be done on his terms. And that's exactly what happened. They went and they had the biggest dead cap hit of all the teams, if I'm not mistaken. They were able to sit on their hands and not move up, not trade anything, and Bo Nix fell into their lap, and they took him in, and they are a team that all of a sudden, and this is just a hot take, they are going to be the talk of the summer, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to be mentioned so much throughout this entire offseason that people are going to start to get tired outside of Broncos country. Anyway, they're going to start getting tired of hearing our name. But before we continue, let's say hi to some people here in the chat, Libre. Dreamweaver saying, fellas, we got one of the top coaches in the league, and we should be so appreciative. I'm going to let you answer that, Libre, but first, let's just keep going. Fanatic Dak, what's up, guys? Fanatic Dak,
what's happening,
my friend? Hey, thanks for filling in yesterday on the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue. You and Jay, Dreamweaver, right above you. You guys knocked it out of the park. It was a hell of a show. Welcome aboard to the Orange and Blue Network, my friend. Paul Schaefer saying, what's up, Broncos fanatics? And D-Rock saying,
Paul?
Oh, Javante Sting. Libre, I'll let you take this one first. Do you feel appreciative that Sean Payton is in Denver?
Oh, 100%. Because we got a guy that has been in the league for a while. He has been proven. He's a Super Bowl champion coach, so having someone that has been there, done that mentality, he knows what it needs to be taken to get us to that level. And he not only he's done it, he's going to be taking this team. And this team right now is super young, which I love about the team. And look what we were able to do and accomplish. Imagine having a full cap where we can spend money on some of these players, these free agencies that are going to be coming in this year, and then also for next year as well. We're going to have a little bit more cap money for that. What we can be able to do, he is going to be the guy that's going to lead us there, and he's going to help us get us some of these key players that they want to come back to Denver and play here, how they were in the late 90s in 2015 when we did win the Super Bowl for Super Bowl 50. Players are going to want to come here and play because they know the type of ownership that we have and the coaching that we have as well. And I agree, and so much appreciative as well, especially being in the stands, like how we were just talking in 2022, being in the stands during that time, during 2021 and 2022, those were hard games to watch, especially to be in the stands, because you're just in there just watching these grown men just play a sport, but nothing's really competitive or anything like that. But now that we have coaches, we have an ownership group that wants to win, 100%.
I definitely am very appreciative, and I'll appreciative. Appreciative. Let's just go with that. Of Sean Payton, and I'll tell you guys why. The thing that made me really appreciate him the most, and I know you guys probably don't want to relive this, but unfortunately, it is part of NFL history. Worst by our end on this remark, and that's basically what happened after the Miami game 2 years ago. Okay, the Broncos suffered their biggest loss in the history of the franchise. Okay, they literally got ran out of town. They got destroyed, and every single person rocking the orange and blue literally wanted Vance Joseph gone before the end of the game, especially me. Okay, I know I was one of them, because if you guys go and you guys watch that's good sports over there with Brandon, there's a clip where I think I've talked about this before, but I'll mention it again. There's a clip where he took like one of my tweets and he put it in his show, and I felt really, really like humbled and honored that I made it on That's Good Sports in one way or another. But I was speaking from the heart. And the fact that I was able to go because the following game, week 4, they came here to Chicago. They came to play the Bears, and both teams were off to a bad start. Okay, and the Bears were favored to win that game. And if you watch the first half of that game, they definitely looked like they were. And I was already sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I don't know where to start with this team when I get home and I have to record. This is before I came to Orange and Blue. And I was already thinking, I had Bears fans just talking smack to me from all sides. You know, people thought I was from Denver. Like, you know, they were telling me to go get on the plane and just start going home. And then the second half happened. And the Broncos came back. Yeah. The defense came alive. They woke up, and they served the Bears a gigantic piece of humble pie. And ever since that game, the Broncos, yes, they've lost games, but they were never put in the same situation that they were in that Miami game. Because in that Miami game, you could have made the case that everybody should have been fired. Every single person, from the coaches to the players, just because it was not to the standards that we are used to seeing here in Broncos country. Okay. That basically said, hey, this is the worst that the Broncos can be. So that means that the ceiling to get better is to the moon, to the stars, as far as you want to go in the sky. Okay. Yeah. So we've been at the bottom in Broncos country. So I'm really excited to see how far to the top we can go. And then D-Rock here asking us, so is Javonte staying? Libre, I'll let you take this first.
No, I don't think he is. And again, this was his contract, the end of his contract. So they're not going to be coming back and re-signing him. If they do, if anything does happen, if he does come back, he has to come back for way less money. But if he can go ahead and find somewhere else, he's going to go ahead and find somewhere else to go, because the Broncos are not going to pay him, especially for the production that he's had over this last year from coming back from his injury. And I still feel like within him that he's still in his head with that injury. Because I even was talking to somebody at work this week, actually, and we were talking about Javonte and then talking about the injury he had. I go, again, he's no Adrian Peterson as well. Adrian Peterson was out back like in 9 months. But again, it's just all depending on how your body responds. It could take, it's fine that it took him 12 months, 15 months, whatever it was for him to come back and start playing again. But it's all mentality. And I think with Adrian Peterson, he just has that mentality. It's like, all right, let's just go hard again. And don't think about your ACL. Don't think about your knee. And if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Like, that's the mentality. You have to think that this is your last game that you're ever going to play in the league. because you never know. It could be. And I don't feel that Javonte was playing that way this year. I think he was just too timid.
I'm gonna say that I don't think Javonte stays. Uh, don't be surprised if the Broncos make a move for a running back in free agency. I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying don't be surprised. Or if they make if they don't do anything on free agency for the running back room, that they make a move in the draft. But the writing is pretty much on the wall about Javonte Williams. That it's not that they don't want him in Denver anymore. It's just that the team is moving in a direction, and the running game with Javonte in it is not nowhere near as where it was before Javonte got hurt. Okay, that's just the God honest truth, and we've talked about it on the show in the past, and we're just being honest with ourselves. The Javonte we used to know before he got hurt is nowhere near where we thought he'd be. We kind of saw that again with Nick Chubb when he came back. Yes, he did get a touchdown here and there, but he was not the same power runner that he was before he got hurt. And this is another hot take. Don't be surprised if the Browns use Nick Chubb in some sort of like a trade deal before the trade deadline. That's just a guess, especially if they don't see any improvement from him. They might decide to trade him while he has some trade value instead of cutting him and letting him go. Well, let's keep going down the comments here, Libre. Paul Schaefer saying, Sean graded out today as a B, I think, but bottom of the coach grades. Grades by players. He loves Sean. Fanatic Dak saying, got to give VJ his flowers. Of course, Dreamweaver saying, it's crazy VJ had a job after that Miami game. You know what? I agree with you too, especially how we were all coming down on him. And I don't know what if I could be a fly on a wall just to hear that conversation between Sean Payton and Vance Joseph after that game, like what it was in Sean Payton to say, give me a reason why I shouldn't fire you right now. And whatever reason it was, it must have been a hell of a reason. And it happened somewhere in that locker room here in Chicago, because when that defense came out after that first half where they were down like 23-24 something to 0, and they just came back and won that game. It was crazy. Dreamweaver also says, I think it was almost like a job recommendation for Javonte so another team can take a look at him. George doing right by quote unquote his guy.
No, that's true.
And you're right. I can see it. And see, the good thing about our GM is that he is nowhere near like other GMs where they're just literally throwing their players out by the fire and see what happens. A la the New York Jets. The New York Jets are in so much of a shamble right now that nobody knows what they're going to do with Aaron Rodgers, except that he's more than likely not going to suit up as a Jet next year. So that means the Jets are going to eat a ginormous amount of dead cap hit next year. Same thing with Devontae Adams, a guy that they spent resources to bring him in and did absolutely nothing for the team except win one damn game, I think, and that was against the Texans. That was about it.
So. But I also going on that with Aaron Rodgers, they already brought him in into their facilities and told him, "Hey, you're not going to be our quarterback next year. We're going to be cutting you once the new year starts, or before anything happens." They've already informed him he's being cut.
You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, and then that's the next part is like how you were just saying with Devontae Adams. He's the next one. He's going to be the next casualty there. They're trying to hope and hopefully that connection between Aaron Rodgers and Devontae had the same effect that they had in Green Bay. Again, Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. It's the time where he's not there anymore. He can't compete like how he was when he was in his early 20s and 30s and so forth. He's no longer there. He's too injury prone. So, yeah, the Jets are in a world of hurt right now.
I agree. They definitely are. They're not the only team that's in a world of hurt. As Libre said, there are a lot of teams that are just kind of like you don't really know what it is that they're doing. Fanatic Dak here has another question here for us. He says, how would you guys feel if it was Najee Harris and Travion Henderson in the backfield? Now, I don't know who Travion Henderson is. I'm guessing he's a draft pickup, I want to say. But Najee Harris, I don't want him in our backfield. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, Dak. Feel free to check back. I think it was like a month ago where we kind of went. Libre and I went over the players that were available for free agent pickup, and Najee Harris was on a lot of people's lists. But if you were going to try to go get a Najee Harris like player, you might as well keep Javonte.
Well, the thing is, I don't think with that style of running back fits our offense the way that it's currently structured. I don't think Najee Harris will fit our offense itself. And that's why, like, I think with Audric Estime, I think he is more of a fit. Like because right now the way that our line is set up, we're more of a zone blocking on the line, and because of that, we need that one cut type of player where you're reading the line and then you're cutting back to find that hole itself. And I feel like if we can help out with the line itself and maybe and we've talked about this as well, if we can get a pulling guard or a pulling tackle to help with some of these runs, I think we'll be a lot better. But I think it has to be with the scheme and so forth that Sean needs to maybe put together as an offense for that. But as of right now, we're more of a zone blocking West Coast type of offense that Najee Harris will not fit with this itself.
Yeah. So I do appreciate the question, Dak, but again, I can't comment on Travion Henderson because I have no idea who that is. So I do apologize. But as far as I do know who Najee Harris is, and if there's a reason the Steelers aren't signing him, it's a really big reason why. And he didn't even have that big of a season last year. And that was a year when he didn't have to compete with the person. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But basically he was the second running back for the Steelers a year before, was kind of giving Najee Harris a run for his money, and he was starting to make waves and stuff. So don't be surprised if the Steelers go out and try to get a running back in the maybe free agency or maybe even the draft. I don't know what pick the Steelers have in the draft, but if a player like a Gianti were to fall in their laps, then don't be surprised if they more than happily take his services and bring him to Pittsburgh. But and going back to our original topic about Sean Payton, it's really been great to see what he did and the confidence he had in Vance Joseph and bringing him in was just fantastic. Now, a part of me, especially after watching this past Super Bowl, a part of me kind of really wishes that he would have pushed a little harder for Vic Fangio, because if he was going to go down that road anyway of bringing a former Broncos head coach back, I still think it should have been Vic Fangio. But at the same time, maybe it was something that, Vic was not, really comfortable with, like Vance Joseph was. And maybe he just didn't want that kind of attention, or people asking, and especially in the media, asking him like, "Oh, how does it?" Because they did that's the exact same thing they did to Vance his first day back in Denver. It was like, "How does it feel? You don't have your office anymore. You have to answer to, Sean, and basically asking him how different it was from when he was here, like 6-7 years before ago. So it helped avoid all that stuff, I guess. But it did give me confidence before I turn it over to you, Lee. Right? It did give me confidence in knowing that if Vance Joseph can his defensive calls towards the end of the season were really, really head scratching and broke down. So he really has to work on that. Mm-hmm. But if he can bring together a season like Vic Fangio did, especially 1 year going into a defense he had never coached before, like the sky's the limit as to how great this defense can be, and maybe even surpass their record of sacks from last year.
No, I agree with that 100%. But like going back with Vic Fangio, a lot of, especially during that media week there for the Super Bowl itself, people say that for Vic Fangio, he probably feels more comfortable in the box where he's at, where he's seeing everything from above, as opposed to being there on the actual sideline itself. So there are those coaches that do, like how I was mentioning earlier, that will excel a lot more in these positional positions itself as offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator itself, as opposed to being the actual head coach. And for me, I feel that Vic Fangio is that guy, that he is going to be a better defensive coordinator and sitting in the box and watching it from above than being there on the on field level and watching the game on the field and directing the whole game itself.
I agree too. And we saw what Vic Fangio can do when excuse me, when you give him that type of view. And like we discussed last time, Libre, that's just what certain coaches are good at doing.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are meant to be head coaches, and there are people that are meant to be offensive or defensive coordinators, special teams, as we saw in some cases. And you can go further down the line, but that kind of becomes a little bit harder because as you go further down the line, those positions, the people that have those, like linebackers coach, wide receivers coach, and all that, they actually go the opposite way. They're trying to work their way up to one day be, offensive or defensive coordinators or, a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to go in the opposite direction, which is totally understandable. And it happens all the time. So, but going into this new season, this draft and this free agency period are going to be very, very detrimental and important for the Broncos. And the reason I say that is because right now, and we're probably going to say this every single podcast episode, the Chiefs are in shambles. I don't care who you ask in Arrowhead media. They can put up a shield and a front all they want.
Mm-hmm.
But that loss hurts. Okay. And they're going to try their very hardest to spin it and make it sound like it didn't hurt. There was even somebody I heard. I didn't hear. I read a headline that said that Travis Kelce didn't play good because he wasn't feeling well. Like, don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
Don't be that person. Like, don't start making excuses, man. Like, it's just you got your ass whooped, plain and simple. And it's not the first time the Chiefs have gotten their ass whooped either. So it's actually worse than the first time, if I'm being honest with you. But don't make excuses. And like I said, this is a perfect time because the Chiefs have a lot of holes to fill because they are up against the cap. That's why for them, it was very detrimental for them to win because they knew that going into this offseason, they were not going to be able to keep every single person that's still on the roster. So they're really going to have to make a lot of important decisions like restructuring contracts for some players. And if they don't want to restructure, then they're going to have to go leave the team, go play somewhere else. And again, that's why I say that it's going to be very important to see what Sean Payton and George Payton, what they can do and bring in and make sure that the players that they bring in work out to their advantage. I will say the one player that I feel that since Sean Payton has been head coach that to me was a head scratcher and I still don't agree with was when he brought in Samaje Perine from the Bengals. Mm-hmm. I don't really understand what that was supposed to do. I think Perine was more of a liability than he was an actual asset to this team. And a lot of people will say, well, he did great when he played with the Chiefs last year. I'm like, well, yeah, that's because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are not Bo Nix and Sean Payton, and Mahomes and Reid were pretty good at kind of disguising their faults and making it look like they know what the hell they're doing. But you can't, aside from that one play where Perine caught the ball and literally eliminated the Bills, probably the only highlight of last year that I can think of Perine. Libre, your thoughts?
Well, for Perine, I feel like we brought him in as more of an insurance policy because we had Javonte coming back himself. So I think it was more of an insurance policy. That's really about it. So you saw what happened is as soon as we got in, we got Audric estimated for this year, we cut him. And of course, what was the first thing that the Chiefs did? Let's pick him up because the offense. They may say that they don't pick up guys for that type of scenario, but they do it for that matter. It's like, all right, what type of schemes are they going on? What's these type of calls? What are they doing here? What's the scenario here? They do it all the time with any of these free agents that are coming in. And if you can do it to your team within the division itself, why not do that? I would say the Broncos do even do that. Why don't we do that? Part of it, I feel like that's what what we did when we got Stidham. When we got Jarrett Stidham as our backup quarterback, we brought him in. I feel like we got some information of what the Raiders were doing there, even though the Raiders had, they're just being Raiders on how they do that. But you get that little bit of information of what you can get, and you use that to whatever your ability to help gain that advantage for any of the games when you're playing that team itself.
Yeah. And it's just, I guess the important thing is that it wasn't like they sold the farm to get
Mhm.
P. Ryan. Okay. And
Correct.
again, that goes back to when I think about it, for getting people in free agency, you're going to overspend, you're going to overpay, and it's really a gamble. It's just as much a big of a gamble just it is during the draft, because in the draft, you really don't know if the players you're getting from the draft that you're bringing from the college levels are from the college level are going to make it in the pros. Okay, because it's like a transfer of night and day, and that's where the head coaching comes in. It's their job to make sure that the transition that these players make from the college to the NFL level goes by smoothly. And if they can try to keep their ego in check, all the more better, because we've seen some players that come into this league, they're talented, they know what they're doing, but their ego kind of gets ahead of them, and then they start thinking that they're the team and that without them there is no team, and then they'll start butting heads with their fellow players, they'll start butting heads with the coaching staff, or even people in the media, and then it just becomes just a gigantic headache for us fans, because while we want to respect the player for being talented and good at what they're being paid to do, they're just being a jackass at it, and nobody really wants to deal with that. Okay. And I could sit here and name you a bunch of players. I don't have to. If you guys know football like me and Libre do, you can think of them off the top of your head. But there have been players, and there's going to be players, because unfortunately it's just something that's unavoidable. The money that players make, the bigger, the better they are, more talented, is just crazy. And they're well deserved of it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But at the same time, when you make more money, you start to think that your thing don't stink, and it's just it
More
sucks.
money, more problem. That's what
Yes,
they
sir.
always say.
More money, more problems, just like the song says. But and a lot of people, mostly my Uber passengers, have asked me, like, what do I think about the acquisition that the Broncos made? Was it worth the draft pick they gave up to the Saints? I don't remember who the Saints got from that draft pick. I can't think off the top of my head, but I would definitely say that it definitely was.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100% as well.
Because you guys have to remember that Sean Payton didn't want to coach for the Saints anymore. And he basically said, I will sit out the remainder of my contract. And he literally did for 1 year. He went to go be on guest host or commentator, just make the rounds over on the media, mostly sitting across the couch from Colin Cowherd. And then just, collecting I'm pretty sure he still has to be paid. But Dennis Allen just coming in there and trying to fill Sean Payton's shoes without Drew Brees and without everything that made the Saints offense very dangerous was kind of like Brian Callahan walking into Tennessee without Derrick Henry or without DeAndre Hopkins. And they gave him Will Levis and a bunch of other players and say, here, go win us the division and try to win us a Super Bowl. Go contend with CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson, and to a lesser extent, Sunshine. But it was worth it. I honestly think so. And as we continue going forward, like they also asked me, Libre, what do we expect from Sean Payton this year? So what I expect from Sean Payton is I expect him to literally build up from what we already have. So if, let's say right now we have a brick house, we want to have a mansion. And that's something you got to literally build brick by brick. As I heard in one of the other previous podcasts, I think it was over at our good friend Mike's podcast at the beginning of the duo. And it was just basically like the very first line, and I think Glenn said it, that basically it was great to be able to sit down and talk about football, Denver football, and our conversation not have to start with we're looking for a head coach or we're looking for a quarterback. So, and he was so right in saying that because it literally made me laugh out loud when I heard it because I hadn't thought about it until they mentioned it, but he was so totally right. It's great to be able to sit and talk about football, Broncos football at that,
Mm-hmm.
with anybody, and the topic of conversation isn't we need to find a head coach because we already have one, or we need to find a quarterback because we already have one. So being able to sit and talk about, we need a tight end, we need a wide receiver, we need different offensive line key players, different defensive tackles, or what have you, any other position in the Broncos football family. More than happy to sit and talk about because I feel anyway that we have more options at that end. Libre, your thoughts?
Like you're just talking about building up and so forth. How about going from a brick house to a mansion? This year was the building blocks of the organization, the future of the Broncos. Now that we have the quarterback of the future, which happy birthday, Bo Nix, for yesterday. Yesterday was your golden birthday, 25 years old. I know there's some sports. I was listening to sports talk radio. They're like, so Bo Nix had a birthday yesterday. He's 35 years old. Let's go. The oldest rookie out there. Make all the jokes that you want. But guess what? He came in here with what he had and what he was able to accomplish. I love this for him. And you know what? I'm okay with him being 24, 25 now because he has all this more experience. He's been there, done that throughout the college ranks. Yeah, he might be the quarterback that has the most games in college football history, which I'm okay with because look at the results that we had this year. But like I was saying, is like this is the building bricks that we have right now with Bo Nix, and now we're just having to get these skilled positions that are going to help us get us to the next spot. It's Sean Payton said it earlier this week himself. If it's somebody on defense, if it's somebody on offense, who's going to help Bo Nix? Whoever that is, if it's offense on the offensive side or on the defensive side, it is going to be someone that's going to be helping this team be a better team to help go in and play. Because if we have that defensive guy that's out there that's just that straight out stud like PS2, that's going to be able to help us maintain the score being low and being given this opportunity for Bo Nix to go out there and score some points. And so that the offense is out there more than the defense is, then yes. But if it's somebody that is on the offense that's going to be able to get Bo Nix all the extra plays, the catches and all that, that's going to be huge.
I personally, the way I put it to people to give them a great example is just basically I tell them, I'm like, look at the Chargers. The jump from going from Brandon Staley to Harbaugh in a season's time and was just like night and day. And I will sit here and I will tell you guys that I had to eat crow because I thought that Harbaugh was really going to struggle. I thought that the Chargers were going to charge, and I thought that they were going to be terrible. But unfortunately, they weren't. They were able to turn the tables on us. They swept us in both games, just like the Broncos had swept them the year before. And I, for one, took it for granted. So it's just basically, in my personal opinion, what coaching is supposed to do. That's what coaching is. And the Chargers just fell short of a wild card spot, just like the Broncos, in terms of, advancing to the next round. But the team that they played, I mean, they got blown out of the water. It wasn't even close. So while the Chargers have a lot of work to do and a long ways to go, so do the Broncos. All right. Mm-hmm. And literally that's what the Raiders are trying to do with Pete Carroll. And I'm going to talk about my personal thoughts about Pete Carroll when we get into the OT part of the show in just a little bit. But what we have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is that Sean Payton, while he does have some bad press that's followed him throughout his career through New Orleans. Again, the whole Bounty Gate scandal and, all the ups and downs that a lot of people are going to point out to you that are not Broncos fans, mind you. But nobody's perfect. We have to see it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And as long as Sean Payton, before he decides to hang up his hat, can bring a championship to the city of Denver and literally be on a bus as it drives right past Bronco Libre's job, and Bronco Libre can wave at him, and physically say that he was witness to, seeing him hoist the fourth Lombardi trophy in the team's history, then can that man really, really feel proud and happy to say, hey, my career in the NFL was long. It wasn't, he had ups and he had downs, but at least he's able to say that he at least won or won two different championships, just like Peyton Manning can say that with two very different teams. D-Rock here saying, Libre, you nailed it. Experience. It's a copycat league. General managers will probably want more experienced QB now.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Well, there's a difference between wanting one and creating one. Okay. But I excuse me, I understand what you're talking about, D-Rock. And that's also dangerous because it makes a guy like Aaron Rodgers a very, very dangerous person because he has a lot of experience, but everything that follows Aaron Rodgers, look at what he did to the Jets. Whatever team he goes to, he is going to try to sink his teeth and do the exact same thing with that franchise, which is basically be a super diva. And don't be surprised that whatever team he goes to, he's going to probably tell him, hey, if you want me to play here, I need Devontae. I need Allen. I need Nathaniel Hackett. I need basically everybody that was with Green Bay that went to the Jets and now got to go to the new team. So that's where I think that might go. Libre, your thoughts?
Going back with Aaron Rodgers, though, I don't think, especially saying being a copycat league, I think what D-Rock was saying here is the experience coming out of college, not necessarily the experience within the league itself. And with this, though, but with Aaron Rodgers, going back to him, he's already 40 years old. He's not going to be able to give you that serviceable years anymore going in the future itself. And that's one thing that I feel like a lot of these teams that are needing quarterbacks that are going to be looking at that as well, looking at his age, looking at his injuries that he's had here late in his career. So with that being said, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be, if anything, he's going to be more of a backup, and he's going to be coming into a scenario where he's going to be helping out this other quarterback that's either being drafted or a younger quarterback within the league itself for this upcoming year. So, but I don't think he'll be starter. With that, was that something that he's going to want? I don't think so, because of the type of quarterback he is and the type of person he is. He goes, I'm in here to actually play. I'm not here to be a coach. I'm not here to teach this guy how to do my job. He basically said that with Jordan Love when Jordan Love got drafted in there in Green Bay.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, Libre, just for the simple fact that I don't think you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers and have him play second fiddle. Kind of like the same thing with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has one more year where he can be the starter, just for the simple fact that he's not going to be on anybody's books but Denver. After 2025, I predict that Russell Wilson is not going to be a starter anywhere. And
No, I agree.
If he goes to another team, he's going to have to take a seat back. The only way he beats that observation of mine is if he wins a title. If he brings a Super Bowl Lombardi trophy to whatever team he goes to, that's the only way he has an argument to say that he still has it and that he could still be a starter in this league. But with Aaron Rodgers,
the problem with that for this upcoming year, he's not going to be winning a Super Bowl because Bo Nix is going to be hoisting up that trophy.
Exactly.
Just so you're aware.
And I agree with you 100%. But I'm just saying that's the mentality that he's going to have to go into with whatever team he signs. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. And again, you guys have heard me and Libre say it on this show before, and you'll hear us say it 100 times, along with everything else we said on the show tonight. Aren't you glad that Aaron Rodgers didn't come to Denver? Because the way he poisoned that New York Jets team, which was already a faulty team at best, and I'll give the Jets credit on one thing. They were starting to build one hell of a defense. All right. They really were, because if Robert Saleh was doing anything good with that team, if it may have not been in the offense, it was the defense. Mm-hmm. All right. And then when they let him go and they just started hiring interim people, that entire team went to hell in a hell basket, and it went down fast. Okay, so whatever team that Aaron Rodgers goes to next year is definitely going to be a pain in every coaching staff's players behind.
So, like, when you're talking about, like, thank God that we didn't get Aaron Rodgers at that time. During that draft, when we got Nathaniel Hackett, when he was our coach, right away that we thought that was going to be the type of combo that was going to come in. You're getting Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers is going to come. I remember we were at a draft party, and right away the rumors, as soon as the draft started, the rumors started to come saying, "Oh, okay, the Broncos are now in talks about getting Aaron Rodgers. We're going to be trading away this pick to get Aaron Rodgers over here." And me and my circle of friends, we were mixed. We had a mixed feeling about it. I was one of the guys that said, you know what, I don't want Rodgers here. And I even said at the time, I go, he's too old. We don't want him here. I go, the only thing that we're doing is, yes, he's coming in with his offensive coordinator, who is now the head coach, and that's what he was banking. And I feel like when that didn't happen, Nathaniel Hackett was changed for him as well, because I feel like he thought that when he came to Denver and took the head coaching job, that he was also going to have his quarterback come over with him as well. And when that didn't happen, I just think he had his whole narrative for the season changed. And again, like, look what happened. He didn't even last a full year.
Yeah. And I can honestly say that, and again, one of the things I'll eat the most crow about out of all the predictions I make on the show that I'm wrong in is definitely going to be the one about Nathaniel Hackett, because I got caught up in the hype, just like everybody wearing the orange and blue in 2022. Excuse me. We all got caught up in the hype. And it's literally okay, because you can't help it. As soon as the new football league starts, whenever the Broncos get any new set of toys, it just does that to us automatically. And we try to be optimistic. We try to stay positive. We always try to be on the up and up on things, because we want this team to succeed. And we want to believe that the decisions that the coaching staff or the owners or management or whatever make are the right ones. But as we all know, excuse me, not every decision is the right decision. So with that being said, I do think that it could have been a whole lot worse. And I tell this to a lot of people, because as bad as Russell Wilson was in Denver, I still prefer everything that we had to deal with him, those 5 win and 12 losses, compared to everything that we saw happen with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really sad, because Aaron Rodgers only played 1 season and 1 game as a New York Jet. I don't even know if you can count that a game. It was more like a quarter.
That was 4 snaps. No, not even a quarter. It was 4 snaps before he tore his ACL. Or not his ACL, his Achilles. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, I totally couldn't deal with that. And it's a miracle that there are any Jets fans still left. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to just hop on a plane and literally fly out of New Jersey or New York or wherever the Jets are based at, and literally just look out his window and see the the tire fire or the dump or the disaster that is the Jets literally still burning, while he literally, and they're going to be paying him money to go play somewhere else. So the Jets literally just copied what the Broncos did 2 years ago and said, hold our beer.
Yeah.
That's literally what because I think Rodgers still has 2 more years on his deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what his contract, but it sounds about right.
But it literally sounds like copy and paste, ladies and gentlemen. But in hindsight, to kind of wrap this Sean Payton subject up, at least for now anyway, I am really excited to see what Sean Payton brings to this offense or team, because if we saw what he can do with a player like a Russell Wilson, which is a veteran player, we see now what he can do with a player that's literally going into his sophomore year, and now can kind of start to take, he already took the wheels off of Bo Nix in a way, but now he can really not have to sit there and wonder that he will make the same mistakes he made because he's no longer a rookie. Bo Nix has already gotten the feel of what it is to play a really good team, and he's gotten the feel of what it is to play a team that's not really good. So being able to differentiate the two, and he even got a taste of what a playoff game is like, which is what a lot of rookies in years past have never been able to taste until later on in their careers when they're no longer rookies, and they get a feeling of how the NFL runs and works. So if he can just take that, if him and Vance Joseph can continue to do what it is that they've been doing, which has been fan-freaking-tastic, like the sky's the limit. I can honestly see the Broncos taking this division back to where they had it in 2015. Libre, your final thoughts on the matter?
Just like how you were just saying, Sean Payton is the guy that is best fit for us right now, going forward. And what he has been able to do so far with this team, he's going to take us to the promised land. He knows what's needed to get us there. He already has in place. We have our quarterback. Now he's just now building on this foundation that we have now with the Broncos. And I'm super excited going into this offseason, what we're going to be able to do. And it starts tomorrow with the NFL Combine itself. So because of that and what he's already said this week, just gets me more excited just for this league, for this team, and what they're able to do this upcoming season. And I can't wait for free agency. Really, that's what we're really waiting for, is the free agency part to start. Right now is just evaluating some of these players, these college kids that are coming up, to put some numbers out there for these executives to help them determine if they're going to be out there. Again, all these are just numbers that they look at. It tells a little story of what they're capable of doing. You can already see some of these players are not really doing anything for this Columbine itself. They're all going in and saying, all right, we're here for the interviews, doing all that. Come to my pro day. Let's go to the pro day. I'll throw there. I'll run the 40 there, whatever the case may be. But the foundation that we have here for the Broncos, Sean Payton is a huge part of it. And I'm super excited for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time. We are past the 1 hour mark. So for those of you that are new to the show or have been here before, you guys already know what it is. It's time to go into overtime, baby. Now, this is a segment that Libre and I like to talk about. So basically, it is an all free-for-all time. We can talk about anything we want. It doesn't always have to be related to the Broncos, but if we can find a way to try to bring it back, then we definitely will. D-Rock, I do see your question here in the chat, and we will get to it before the end of the show. But this is something that I literally started talking to Libre as soon as he came on the air, and that's basically this whole talk about Gronkowski. I don't know what it is that got into Broncos country, and I sometimes, as much as I like the media, sometimes I hate them because I feel like they were the ones that were just kind of spinning this thing and making it something that they damn well know wasn't going to happen. Okay. Libre will tell you that Gronk was not in Denver working out. He wasn't even in the country.
No.
And as far as what Libre said, he was totally unaware that this was even going around. Like, the guy hasn't played football in like 3-4 years. Okay. And the fact that some people in Broncos country wanted him to all of a sudden put some pads on and go out there and be the Gronk of old is, I mean, it's nice to live in a fantasy world, ladies and gentlemen, but that's exactly what it was. And, Gronk, obviously, when he finally caught wind of it, he had to go on social media and just, kind of put those rumors to rest. Libre.
Well, it all is stemming from the video when we first got Sean Payton over here. And Sean Payton made this video of And I think it was just more of a joke of anything because he goes like, all right, I'm coming to Denver and this is what it is. And on a t-shirt, it said Denver Broncos.
The Broncos,
It
yeah.
is, and, you know, and it was just more of a joke. And he said, if we can get Gronk over here, we're changing the name to the Broncos, you know. And of course, there's a t-shirt that was made and he pulled it off of a rack and that's what it said. This was the same video that just came out when they were talking about him coming out of retirement and coming over to playing with the Broncos, and this is where he wanted to come. But of course, I saw today that Gronk had this interview or something with somebody that tweeted it out saying, you know what, I was just in Australia over the last several days coming back from vacation and now I'm seeing all this video. He goes, all of this is news to me. He goes, I wish my body could play. And you know, it comes down to that as well. Like, you're out of the league for a reason. You know, as much as like when I was playing football and when I was playing semi-pro football, I wanted to continue playing football, but my body just couldn't do it anymore. Like I had to also retire from semi-pro pro football as well. So it's like once your body's done, it's done, and you can't do anything about it. And I feel like that's where Gronk is as well. He's got, you know, he was there at the highest level. What is he, a 4-time Super Bowl champ as well? Like he's been there, done that, and you know. Yeah, every player wants to go back out there and say, yes, I still can do it. But, you know, they can't. And they're already up to that point where I feel like he is as well. He's like, you know what? I'm having fun just being a commentator here, going in here, being an analyst, talking about football, because that'd be wonderful to do as well, you know? And look, he's living it up right now, too.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I get it. And it's so easy. It's like being, what's that old saying? It's like throwing a snowball out the top of a mountain, and then as soon as it starts going down, it just picks up more, and it turns from a snowball to an avalanche.
Yeah,
and that's literally what this was. But again, I have nothing against Gronk. I'm pretty sure one day he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and I wouldn't put it past him to have a career in terms of coaching. Like if he ever wanted to be a tight ends coach, I think he would be great at that. But it just goes to show you that there can be there's always a way for players to kind of make that transition, you know, but obviously it usually starts from like the middle of the coaching staff, you know, linebackers coach, tight ends coach, wide receivers coach, all those other midway positions or mid-tier, I should say, you know, and then when you make enough noise, then you move up to offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, then head coach if you're lucky. D-Rock, your question saying, fellas, your thoughts on Ernst Jones out of Seattle coming to Denver? Rumor. I hadn't heard this rumor. Have you, Libre?
I have not heard of that unless that's something that's come out here within this last hour or so. Me personally, I have not heard that. You know, I don't know. This is just coming off the top of my head. I don't know what my feelings are on this, you know, or about it. Like, I don't know what could he do for us, you know. That's I don't know. It's still too early for me to say.
Ernst Jones is running back.
Yeah, isn't he?
I can't think off the top of my head what position he plays. I know the name. Like the name sounds familiar, but I don't know if Ernst Jones. Let me see if I can Google it real quick. I want to say he sounds like a running back. It says that the Seahawks are in contract talks with Ernest Jones. Oh, he's a linebacker.
Linebacker.
Yeah,
so
he used to be with the Rams.
So, you know, with all of the if that's going to be the linebacker, so I was thinking of running back as well. But if he's the linebacker, and the talks of possibly cutting Alex Singleton, if we're going to be able to save money in that scenario with a healthier person, I feel like we should be able to do that. But again, now you're taking away a captain from our team because Alex Singleton is a captain. He's a leader right there in the middle of the team. So if you feel like this injury was too much of him to handle, and because of the way he played the rest of that game from that torn ACL, because he tore it within the first 5 minutes of the game, and then he played the rest of the game with it. unless you've already seen something. And again, this is something that we don't see right now behind closed doors in his rehab. If he's not rehabbing properly, or if he doesn't feel like he's doing that, then yeah, I feel like we might have to let Alex Singleton go. He's one of those other like Justin Simmons type of player. He's a fan favorite because of his dedication and what he was able to do. And again, he's a team captain for a reason.
Yeah, I do think that if the Broncos do let him go, it'll more likely be because of an injury designation, which it means that either his injury is going to be prolonged or it could be a liability where the Broncos don't want to risk it happening out on the field again. But you cannot take away the experience that he brings to this field, to this team. It's really going to be a tough decision for the Broncos to make. And Paul Schaefer says, do we need a slower Singleton? I mean, again, that's really going to come up to see. This is when the head coaches need to earn their merit, because if they're either going to start thinking like you, where you're going to think that Singleton is going to be slower because of either his age or because of his
injury,
or his injury, or that he's going to be the Singleton of old, where he's going to go back and do what he does best, and that's just continue to wreak havoc. Because last year we definitely needed a guy like Singleton out there. Okay, and in some of the games, Libre and I can literally point them out to you week by week, and we could tell you, hey, Singleton would have caught that. He would have done this. He would have done that. So unfortunately, it's really hard to replace the experience that Singleton brings to the team. So if you do cut a guy like him, then you're going to lose out on experience, and you can only hope that the person you bring in can be anywhere near close to the caliber that Singleton was when he was a Bronco.
No, I agree, because you're also losing that leadership as well. And that's what you're talking about, is that leadership on the field. He's like one of those other guys that is going to be that type of player coach on the field. He's getting people in the position that they need to be in out there. That's why he's the middle linebacker and also the captain.
It's saying Libre is wearing bells or something. I think the sound you guys are hearing, I think it's every time Libre talks, his microphone is rubbing up against his shirt.
Oh yeah, right here.
I think that's what that is. But it's really going to be interesting what the Broncos do and who makes the decision of who gets cut and who gets brought in. Now, it's going to be between Sean Payton and between the Paytons, of course. But what I'd like to know is, when it comes to Vance Joseph's defense, because he's still the defensive coordinator, is how much rope Sean Payton is going to give him, or how much power he's going to let him to give him and say, hey, I need you to tell me who you want to keep and who you don't want to keep. Because we already know that he controls the offensive side of the ball. Lombardi, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a say in anything. He's just a guy with a clipboard at this point. But the defense, the one player I heard that they might try to go get is Jonathan Allen from Washington, because I heard that Washington is not going to renew their contract. I think they're going to let him test free agency. So I heard his name could be a name that could be brought to Denver, and if they do that, then they would probably move on from DJ Jones. But if you could get a guy like Jonathan Allen and you pair him next to Zach Allen, that could be a really, really scary front D line. And Paul Schaefer says, I would rather have Barton back over Singleton. Barton was a decent linebacker. I'll give him credit. His best game was against the Saints, but the Saints were literally playing with second and third stringers and a quarterback who had never quarterbacked in the league before. So I would expect him to have a game like he did. But other than that, Cody Barton wasn't like a fantastic defensive player caliber worthy player. Okay. And I'm not trying to throw any dirt on his name or anything, but I'm just being honest with you. I did hear rumors that they might not bring Cody Barton back, just for the simple fact that I think he's up in age, if I'm not mistaken. So his age might be a factor if he doesn't come back. I wouldn't mind having him back. I think he did, like I said, a decent job. But at the same time, he kind of had to step up because Singleton was hurt. So, they had to go in there and do what they had to do. I have no confidence in Justin Sternad. I'm sorry. I felt like he really, really let us down in the linebacker core this season. So that's definitely an area where the Broncos need to strengthen. Especially if they do decide to keep Singleton and get what, like Libre said, like they did with Samaje Perine, which was an insurance policy. Kind of like what the Falcons did when they got, when they got Michael Penix while they already had Kirk Cousins. And which also brings me to another point, sidebar here. There's a conversation I was having with a passenger that I was probably, while the whole world was shocked that the Falcons picked Penix Jr. while having Kirk Cousins, I thought it was an insurance policy in case Kirk Cousins got hurt. But I never would have thought that it would have been if Kirk Cousins was playing terrible, which is almost just as bad as him being hurt. Because now Kirk Cousins is probably being rumored that the Falcons are going to cut him, and the Falcons are going to have to eat that contract, which is even longer than Russell's and Aaron Rodgers combined in terms of longevity. And I mean, it just goes to show you, just when you think you've seen everything in this league, there's a team out of 32 teams that say, hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah, so much true. Going back to Paul's comment here with Cody, I actually do like Cody. Because I'm here in Denver, I actually get to talk to them during training camp. And Cody Barton was one of those guys, and Alex Singleton, both of them I was able to actually talk to them, and but I feel also that Cody did a great job this year. But the thing is with him, I think he needed Alex Singleton to be that type of duel in order for him to succeed, because it was mostly him trying to step up, doing a lot more things. You saw the exposure of it. He's more of a guy that is like a supporting cast member on the team itself that is going to be helping out and Alex Singleton, he's that second guy for him. He's that supporting guy that all teams need, some type of players, that supporting part. And yes, they always say if somebody gets hurt, it's the next man up. That's always a thing. But there's those players that they just need to have that main guy to be there for them to help them out every so often and so forth. And I think that's what Cody is. And yes, I would like to see Cody back, because he did do a good job with Alex being out all season long. But being able to see these two, the middle of this defense is going to be hard to stop if both of them are healthy all year long.
And to give you guys a perfect example, you guys remember Honey Bear? Remember how he looked really good playing next to Alex Singleton, and that linebacker core for Denver looked really solid? And then the Broncos kept Singleton, and they moved on from Honey Bear, and he went to the Panthers. And you pretty much didn't hear his name again until he came back to Denver to play against them. Was the last time you heard his name being called. And Josie Jewell, I'm pretty sure, got the biggest boo he's ever gotten in his career.
But again, he got paid to go there, and that's one thing. Is like, you know what? Like, I'm glad that you were able to get paid. You got a good contract. Broncos weren't going to be doing that here for you, even though, at the time we're like, oh man, we should have kept Josie. We should have kept him here. But he got there, got a good contract that the Broncos were never going to give him, and I was happy for him. But again, like you said, where was he at? You didn't hear him much, besides coming back into Denver. You were at that game.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just how it is in this league, Libre, and folks. Unfortunately, you're gonna get more of one of both. Josie Jewell obviously got his bag again. I'm with you on that. I'm glad he got paid. It's money that he probably would have not gotten in Denver if he decided to hold out. Just for the simple fact that Singleton was the guy that was on fire, and he was seen by Broncos management as the better of the two. And I'm glad he got his money, but at the same time, he disappeared. And there's a lot of players that have done that, where they've chased the bag, they went and got paid a ridiculous amount of money, more money than some of us will ever see in our lifetime, and then they just become a non-factor. Paul Schaefer is jumping in saying, I bet they asked Browning to move back to inside linebacker and he refused. There's a lot of stuff. I'll say this as we get towards the end of the show. I feel like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happened with Baron Browning that never made it to light, that just kind of kept in the locker room, because Baron Browning at one point looked like him at his position, original position, was going to be a terror, you know, but unfortunately it didn't happen. There was a lot of just kind of back and forth, and then he ended up going, I don't even know if he's with the Cardinals anymore. I know he got traded for a draft pick, but
this was his contract year, so this is something that he was hoping to be the last year for himself. And again, I think as soon as March happens, he's a free agent. And I think with the Broncos, they knew that they weren't going to re-sign him to a contract for whatever reason. Arizona at the time, when they did drafted him, they were doing good. They were keeping there in the NFC West itself. So I felt like that's what they went after for Browning, to go out there to help them with the defense. But overall, the whole offense for them just fizzled out, and they weren't able to do much. And I'm hoping, I have a vested interest in Baron Browning's next contract, because I put some money down on him going in and getting this nice contract. I was hoping that it was with the Broncos. It's not, but it just, depending on whenever his next contract is, if he does sign a big contract, I get a little piece of that action.
And you know what? I'm just going to say this because we're at the end of the program, and this is totally not football related or anything. But as you guys know, you've heard me say it a bunch of times, I work as an Uber driver part-time. And the other day I worked for like 6 hours, damn near my entire morning and good part of my afternoon. And I did it. And for the first time in like ever, I didn't get one single tip out of all the rides. Yeah.
Dang.
So I was talking to my brother about it. I was like, bro, like by the end of the day, like this is going to be the very first time I've ever driven for Uber, and I didn't get one single tip. And then there was one lady who probably remembered, and she sent me $1. She sent me $1 for, it was like a $13 ride. And I was just like cracking up. I was at a restaurant with my family, and my dad was like, what's so funny? And I was like, well, I was about to make history as, you know, driving for an entire day and not receiving one full tip, and this lady just ruined it with $1, I guess. But I'm grateful, because, you know, $1 in my pocket was one more dollar than what I started with that morning. But I just thought it was hilarious. And I always tell people, please make sure you tip your rideshare drivers or your servers or whoever's providing you a service. Oh man. But ladies and gentlemen, unless you have anything weird to add, Libre, that's going to do it for today's show. We want to thank all our sponsor, Dubby, for sponsoring our show and for dealing with Libre and I's crazy takes. Shout out to everybody here in the chat: Paul Schaefer, D-Rock, of course, Fanatic, Dak, Dreamweaver. Who am I forgetting? No, nobody. That's everybody there. I think I got everybody. If I did, I do apologize. Shout out to everybody in the TikTok chat. Top Gamer, I know you were watching me play Minecraft yesterday, and you were my first follower on live stream. I'm still very grateful for that. Thank you so much. Matt, Monty, CJ, DJ Sergio, Emma, Yose, PCSC 105, George Guest, James Burris 50, Kanan, and so many others who are probably not even in the chat anymore. But thank you guys so much for being here with us. And as well for you guys watching us live, even though you're not in our chat, thank you so much for watching us. Your support is very, very well appreciated. To wrap things up, ladies and gentlemen, just want to remind you that we are on the Orange and Blue Network, so please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on this show, on any of the shows you else like on the Orange and Blue Network, just in case we are not your cup of tea. Totally fine. Also, please remember this is simulcast, so we are also on the MHRT network. So please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on their pages, and show your support and love for any of their shows. Dreamweaver saying running OT LFG boys.
Let's go.
So much. Thank you so much for being here with us, Dreamweaver. Again, thanks so much for MHRT. Also, shout out to our good friends over at Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you can use the code NRWOB10 to get your 10% off at checkout whenever you guys go get your favorite Dubby. Shout out to them for being a sponsor of the show today. And you guys can thank Jay because Jay and Johnny are on the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast, which airs every single Tuesday. So wrong button. I don't know what I'm doing.
This is like your first episode or something.
Yeah, it's like my first episode. Yeah, I pushed too many buttons. But also, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure for any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. For you guys listening to us after the fact on audio, please make sure you hit that 5-star review and screenshot and send it to either Libre on our socials. It's right there at the bottom. Mine is at a 6'10" Mexican. Libre's is at Bronco Libre 5280. Also, remember, guys, that Viva Los Broncos will not be airing this Friday. We will be live on Saturday at 5 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Mountain, 3 o'clock Western, and 6 o'clock Eastern. But please make sure you are subscribed to either one of the networks so you get that live notification for when we go live. And please keep in mind that it is all in Spanish. So with that being said, my name is Alan Diaz. He's Bronco Libre. This has been Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue MHRT networks. We say so long, everybody. Good night and good day to whatever it is you're listening to us. And as we say here on Broncos Talk, go Broncos!
Let's go.